everyone for joining us today for the latest installment of our Rule of Law Speaker Series. I'm going to keep the introduction short. We're very pleased to have Chuck Gastle, the co-founder of CLUE, Cambodian Legal Education for Women, to join us today. They are celebrating their 10th anniversary, and we have a history of supporting this organization with LexisNexis. And without further ado, Mr. Chuck Gastle.
Hi. Thanks for inviting me here. Our relationship with LexisNexis goes back to actually December 2009, when there was an article published about us, and just when we were starting out. And one of the things that we were doing is we were trying to find books for the Royal University of Law and Economics for their library, because they had none. Effectively, they had none. And all of a sudden, I got an email from LexisNexis that said, "If you got a need, we've got the books." So for the next number of years, we took all kinds of books over there. LexisNexis actually provided the databases to the university at no charge. There's a research lab named after LexisNexis at that university today. We got the idea in 2008 to start supporting young women from the provinces and putting them through the leading law school, which is the Royal University for Law and Economics in Phnom Penh. We literally you go down a dirt road, you come to a group of just hovels, literally hovels, and on a dirt road. Out of these hovels will come these incredibly bright young women who are seen as secondary in their community. Not a lot of emphasis are put on them. And some of them, for some unbelievable achievement, have actually got through grade 12. And the challenges are remarkable for them to do that. I mean, some of them have to travel miles and miles to get to school every day. And we partner with Plan Cambodia and other organizations, and we take these young women, and we have a dorm in Phnom Penh. We pay for the dorm, living allowance, health care, books, English lessons, on and on and on, everything at their needs. They can get 2 degrees. They can get a law degree in Khmer, and then they can get a master's in English. And then they stay with us after they graduate, because they have to get their feet on the ground, they have to get established. We've had 84 women in the program. We have 47 graduates, and it's amazing what they've achieved. And instead of me saying what the impact of CLUE is, I'm going to let the students explain that.
CLUE means to everyone, and me, it's just not about help, but it's about change. Before, I am just a simple girl in my village that graduated from high school, and now change my life. I can study bachelor degree.
CLUE is very meaningful to us. CLUE support us to study at university and also financial support. Without CLUE, we don't have chance to study in university. Maybe we live in the province and get married in the young age and also work with the farm.
CLUE, it means like our second parent. Without CLUE, we cannot go to study at university.
In my heart, CLUE very important. I love CLUE very much. If don't have CLUE, I can be here to study law.
Would like to say thank to our donor that always support our girls to study law. And I really happy that I am a CLUE student.
CLUE is happiness.
CLUE is a revolution.
CLUE is a hope.
CLUE is my second family.
CLUE is my new life.
Thank you.
Okay, that picture is taken on September 4th, 2008. This is at the Royal University of Law and Economics, and you'll see a gap under the building. Back in the late 90s, students used to live under there in order to go to school because they didn't have a place to live in Phnom Penh. And if you want to talk about a country which is growing, and one of the things that makes it work for us is that Cambodia has had like 7% annual growth for the last 15 years. One of the reasons we know that there's great growth there is that no one lives under the building anymore. But, so that's 10 years ago. That was the picture taken on January about 7th, 2019. And that's not all the students. In 2014, I was driving out to the Ministry of Commerce to give a presentation with the person who headed up the World Bank in Cambodia. And he knows about CLU. He said, what's your graduation rate? And at that time we had about 44 or 45 students in the program. I can't remember, maybe 53. And I said all but 2. And we had 2 who dropped out. One because she had mental issues, which was very sad for us. The other one because her mother wanted her to go work at basically a slave shop in South Korea, which broke our hearts. And he looked at me and he said, "Really?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "I would have expected that between dropping out of school and getting pregnant, you would have lost 50%. And I said, if that's your standard of measurement, you better come and start studying this, because we don't have that problem, we don't have that issue." I've arranged to have young lawyers from Canada work and teach in Cambodia. And one year I went over and met with one of the students, and she revealed something to me about our program that I never understood before. And she said to me that one of the things that's amazing to her is that the truancy, which is at university level. And that's because if the grandmother has a small shop in the Russian market or somewhere, the kids will get pulled away and they'll have to go and they'll have to work with the mothers, which is completely understandable in that society. Because education, the link between the financial return and education is not strongly established, and that's one of the problems. It reminds me of what Canada was like probably in the 20s, 30s, 40s. Our students, one of the strengths of our program is that we take them out of the families and we put them into a dorm in Cambodia where all they have to do is study. And to give you an example of the result, 2 years ago we had 9 students who were admitted into the program. They were all in the top 20% of the class. They were like first, third, fourth, sixth. And so we have just a remarkable achievement. My belief is I don't care where you find a student. You can take a student anywhere in the world, and I don't care where they are. You give them an opportunity, and they all do the same. The reason why CLU exists is because I've got a doctorate in international trade and competition law, and I was in Cambodia writing laws for the Cambodian government. And in my studies of international trade policy or international development, everybody said educate the women. Okay, well, that's a truism. But what they say is educate through primary school and secondary school. That's where you get the bang for the buck. They don't say anything about university. So we came in and we wanted to fit right into that niche. And in 2008, we thought in 10 years there'll be all kinds of programs like ours. I mean, we won't be the only one. As far as we know, we're still the only one. And it's a remarkable achievement in what happens with these students. Think of the amount of trust that there must be for these people. These people live in rural Cambodia. All the development is happening in certain areas. And like Phnom Penh, Sihanoukville, Siem Reap, all those places. But in the provinces, in the countryside, these people are being left behind. Their land is being stolen from them. Everybody's heard of microfinance, and aren't they a great thing? No, they're not. We've got a series of movies which are on YouTube, and it's amazing how through these movies there will be themes that will come up that we never thought of. And one of the themes was that there's this one young woman who lived in a village who the microfinance people came in and lent them $240 or something like that, and charged 60% interest. And they pledged the fields around their small community. And what happened was they had a bad harvest, the price of their commodities dropped, their lands were taken. So now they haven't got any economic infrastructure. They've lost their ability to develop. This woman talked about having to go to northern Cambodia and to work at basically for slave labor, live in the forest, and they'd be lucky if they got paid, or go to Thailand. And I say that for this reason, because again, there is not a link in the minds of the people in rural Cambodia between an education and getting an income. So we've had students who have started with us, and the village says, why are you going? You're just going to be back in 4 years. You might as well get married and not even worry about that. And what it takes is a very brave mother or head person in the village who can talk the mother into it. And these students come to CLU. They graduate from CLU. Everyone has found a job. It's taken time to do it. Sometimes we have students up to 10 years by the time they go through 2 degrees and they are able to situate themselves in Cambodia. And then all of a sudden, the village gets it. All of a sudden, they get the connection. And all of a sudden, our students become role models. And all of a sudden, you'll find other people coming to us and wanting to have their students come with us. Or they'll start thinking about putting their daughters through university. And so we're seeing that kind of an impact that CLU has as well. One of the other things that we do is that we're a model of diversity. We have all kinds of Aboriginal or Indigenous women from the hill tribes in the north. We have students from all over Cambodia. There's a Muslim minority in Cambodia, and we've got 3 students from the Chan community now, and we've got them from all over Cambodia. The requirements to get into our program: you have to be dirt poor, and you have to be from the countryside. And as long as you fulfill those 2 requirements, you can come into our program. We've had surprising results. We had one student who we had to talk her mother into allowing her to come to the program. The way our students go out and do the interviewing, they're very clever. And they go out with, in this case, it was Plan Cambodia. So they went to the head person in the village and was able to talk the mother into letting the child come with us. So she's in the program, and all of a sudden in, I think it was April or May of the next year, we get a phone call, or we get a message saying she's in hospital getting an appendectomy. It was done on an emergency basis. And apparently, if she had stayed in the village, she probably wouldn't have survived because of the type of medicine which is out there. We've got another student who she was, and this is another movie that's on YouTube. We have a series of them now. We have some movies that tell the stories of the students. We have some movies that talk about how the program operates. So we try to put a portfolio together. And that student was an orphan. Her mother died in childbirth because she had twins, and they didn't really know how to deal with twins. One of the twins died, and the other twin was given away to another village. She talks in her movie about having to go to school with her older sister and how she was really sad because everyone else had parents and she didn't. She worked construction in order to help put herself through university, or through high school. And she's at the top of her class. She's just graduating. You know, she'll get a really good job. She's a remarkable person. And what's remarkable about that is I can take you through every one of those students. Every one of those students I know personally. They're friends of mine. And they all have stories like that. This student here, right here, she's running the program now. She's from a small village in the south of Cambodia. Out of pure talent, she got a job working in what would be the federal cabinet office if it was Canada, and she was working on land claims, which is probably the single most important issue in Cambodia for the poor. Now, if you're someone from the provinces and you're calling in to speak to somebody about your land claim, who would you like to talk to? Some privileged kid from their richer families in Phnom Penh who got it through graft, or someone like her? But that wasn't enough for her. She then went and did a master's in international human rights at Lund University in Sweden. And and again, I can tell you, this girl, Trey, who loves to dance. She's one of the, she was doing traditional Khmer dancing at the palace after she came into our program. Part she had studied too, but she talks about how she graduated, and in her class, no one had a job. No one ever got out of. Her village. She was the first one. And we've got so many kids in our program who are the first one in their villages. First one in their families, absolutely. Probably all of them are that. And so it's a remarkable story. And it's a remarkable program. We had no movies about our students until LexisNexis in January 2014 went to Cambodia and shot one for us. And it's actually on YouTube as well. And after that, we actually came into contact with the Khmer film crew. And so over the years since then, we built quite a portfolio of movies. And they really, and the thing is how do you convince somebody from Canada to care about kids halfway around the world? It's one thing if they're down at the end of the street. It's another thing if they're in your community. It's another thing if they're in your city. How do you do it halfway around the world? And our answer is the same way that I did it here to start with. We let the students tell the stories. And they're remarkably powerful. Something has changed in CLUE. We are a truly amateur organization. My firm right now has 3 lawyers, 2 law clerks. Sometimes we are bigger. But we are CLUE. I mean, we do fundraising, but our firm pays for all the administrative costs, and every dollar that's raised goes straight into CLUE. And, we were a fledgling organization. We had no idea what we were doing. We just sort of made it out of nothing. But lately, things have changed because we've signed up the dorm for another 10 years. And we've got a history behind us. We've got a tremendous amount of contacts in Cambodia that we can draw upon. And all of a sudden, I was told the other day, probably 2-3 months ago now, that what's happening is our students are being selected as teaching assistants for the university professors. And what I was told was, at the start, they were kind of suspicious about us because we were seen as foreign. Because one of the problems with NGOs in Cambodia is they come and go really fast. And as soon as their funding runs out, they're gone. And so everybody says, yeah, you're here, but how long are you going to be here? Well, we've been here for 10 years. And all of a sudden, we're starting to become more of an institution. And people are beginning to react to us in that way. Our budget is it's grown to about $110,000 now a year. That's Canadian. That's an American dollar economy. Things were a lot simpler when we started because it was dollar, the Canadian dollar was high. If you take all of the salaries that are paid in Canada and all of the salaries that are paid in Cambodia, the figure is zero on both sides. This is a labor of love for all of us. And again, LexisNexis has played an important role with us. They were there at the start. They helped us with our first movie, and that got us launched on doing our other movies. Also, one of the biggest things we had to do is we had to get a new dorm. And the new dorm, we got a movie on the new dorm too. But LexisNexis, you've got a grant program here once a year. Well, we were able to get a grant, and that helped us outfit the university, outfit the dorm. But what it also did was free up some money. And so at the very last minute, I'm talking about, this is the Friday before applications close. Like literally, you have them standing in the university at 9 a.m. on Monday, or they don't go. So we went out and we found another couple students. One of the names is Sok Ming. Sok Ming is this, if you were to go to Cambodia and you were to go to the dorm, Sok Ming would be up beside you within about 3 minutes asking you all kinds of questions. And she's just outgoing. She's great. She didn't have a place to go to university. And so you've probably heard of the garment factories in Cambodia. And she went working in a garment factory. And long days. You have to keep up a certain level of production per hour, or you get docked. And the whole thing is rigged against the people who are working there. And they're cheated every week out of part of their wages. And there was one old woman who was there who was doing cleaning. And she was really struggling. So this student went and tried to help. And she was accosted and told her to get back to her job or she'd be fired pretty quickly. She got sick, couldn't work in the factory anymore. So she just happened to be back in her village. We've actually got pictures of her house, dirt floor, small TV. TV is run off of a car battery. The nicest thing about the house was the outhouse, where some NGO had come through and built them a nice block outhouse. Because of that donation, this is an indirect benefit of LexisNexis. She got into the program. She's at the top of the class. She is in the mood program, and she's doing mooding. And if you don't mind, just bear with me for a second. I want to read an email that came in, if I can find it, this morning. Here we go. This is Chantria Rotha. Dear Ruth, she's my wife. How are doing? It is my honor to share the good news with you. I am selected from the university to join a team to participate in the Tan Safuan International Human Rights Law Moot Court Competition 2019 in Malaysia. The date will be 16th and 17th November 2019. All the expenses were by the university. I am grateful to have this chance to join the moot again. I hope this news could be a delight to the sponsors. We wake up to emails like this on a regular basis. I advantage over every one of you on Facebook. I can put anything on Facebook, and I'll get more likes as soon as it's the morning in Cambodia than you guys will ever get, because we're tied into the network down there. And it's hard for me to convey to you the impact that clue has. I'm going to show just a short video. I'm going to show the one I'm going to show one. We shot a video for our 10th anniversary, and I went over it when it was being shot, and I went around to the back of the house, and because the front door was locked, and all of these students started pouring out of this door. And you see that many young people who now have a future, who didn't have a future, or at least a very different future. And it's nothing more than any of you expected when you were growing up. It's not anything that any Canadian student expects, except for maybe the reduction of the grants lately, but we won't go there. The only difference between students is just one of opportunity. And these students are so grateful for the opportunity that they've been given. And we've been doing it long enough now that, it's amazing when you start. It seems like it's such a high hill to climb. And every year you sort of, it's remarkable that you've survived that year and you're going to the next. And you start getting your first graduates. And then all of a sudden, every year, it just builds and builds and builds and builds. And all of a sudden, you go to Cambodia, which I have on numerous occasions. And all of a sudden, graduates come back with their kids and their families. And they talk to you about everything that's changed in their lives. First time I went to Cambodia was in 2006. And there was a civil war in Cambodia until at least 1998, much less than what I've done before, obviously. But I've got friends and students now who are moving. You study international development. They'll talk about the development ladder, and they'll talk about how things climb. I have actually seen now communities, townhouse communities, which have a particularly Khmer flair. And they cost like $40,000, $50,000. And you see the middle class developing and emerging in Cambodia, notwithstanding all of the tremendous challenges that society has. And there's so many reasons that you think we shouldn't be there because of the political situation, the rollback in democracy, and all of these things. But then you realize you're not there for any other reason than for these students. We're completely apolitical. Nothing to do with it. We've got one religion, and that's the power of education to transform lives. So I'm going to show you a movie. The last one was taken from a much longer movie. It was the tail end of it. And I'm going to show you what the students were doing. Remember I said they were pouring out the back door? I'm going to show you what they were doing.
Thank you, Clue.
Happy 10th anniversary to Clue.
Clue is my life.
Happy Clue.
I love Clue very much.
Thank you, Clue.
Thank you, Clue.
Our life is better with Clue.
Happy 10th anniversary, Clue. Thank you so much.
Happy anniversary 10 years to Clue. Thank you, Clue.
We love you so much, Clue. Thank you.
I love you so much, Clue, and thank you. ខ្ញុំស្រឡាញ់ Clue អរគុណ Clue. Thank you, Clue. I love you, Clue, and thank you so much, Clue. Happy 10th anniversary to Clue. Happy 10th anniversary to Clue. I love you so much. Clue, you are awesome. Thank you.
If you can dream it, or you can do it. I love Clue.
We are a very small organization. We're a micro charity. We represent all those people who go abroad and have a good idea. And you can make a change, you can make a difference. Even it could be a water well, it can be sponsoring a student, it can be, helping an orphanage, it can be helping to build a house. Everyone has an opportunity that comes in their lives to do something. Well, this was ours. And it's changed our lives just by being involved in this. And think of how much richer our lives are as a result of knowing all of these students. So I literally could talk all day on this. I literally could show you movies and talk all day. And Jay told me I couldn't. So I'd be happy to answer any questions about Clue, about our students, about Cambodia, about any of those things.
Could you talk a little bit about what some of the graduates are doing now?
Okay. Yes, I will. Camera's on, so I can say some things, others I can't, so let's talk afterwards. The students, none of our students are lawyers. How many lawyers are there in Ontario? I don't know what the number is. 35,000?
I think it might be closer to 50,000.
And how many people live in Ontario? 14 million?
That sounds about right.
15 million. Okay. There are about 15 million people in Cambodia. And last time I saw the numbers, there were about 800 lawyers. And so there are all kinds of non-lawyer jobs. There are law clerks. You can become a corporate counsel, and that is, you can be a lawyer. You can work for a lawyer and basically do legal work. It is tremendously difficult for our students who don't have networks to become lawyers. I'm happy to report that because of an initiative of one of our students, who we'll talk about shortly, she got in touch with the Bar Association, and there will be 5 or 6 of our students who will be writing the bar exams probably right now. But writing the bar exams and being admitted into the practice of law can be 2 different things. But a lot of our students work for government. A lot of our students work for NGOs. A lot of our students work in businesses. There's one person who is really worth note. Her name's Shrani. And Shrani, there's a movie on her. Saying, go to YouTube, go to Canada, watch the movies. Shrani Ann was a woman from an Indigenous community in the north. Her father used to be her mother. Her father left her mother, and the family thought that was a pretty good thing. She had a person who suggested that she start what became Clue. And she had no idea what the law was. She had no idea what the United Nations was. She's now basically selected as a spokesperson for Indigenous women in Cambodia by the United Nations. She's been in Thailand, Panama, the Philippines, New York City to the headquarters. She did a training program in Geneva. She packed her suitcase full of Cambodian noodles. One of the things she was really amazed at was that you go to a fountain and the water would come out of the fountain, and they come out of a plastic bottle. Liz and I looked at each other and said, well, that happens in Canada too. And she was getting a per diem. She saved the per diem. When she got back home, she gave it to her mother so her mother could build a house. She is working in the north with 4 indigenous groups, helping them establish their land claims. So we've got a number of our students who are working in programs like that. What happens is, for the graduates, let's talk about the graduates now, because this is something different. My understanding of being at university was you went to university, I went to Leeds, amongst others. And then, you get to the end of your 4 years and you leave. Well, that's not the way it is in Cambodia, because these students haven't got any place to go back to. They can't go back to the provinces and get a good job, necessarily. Some can, and we facilitate that. But they have to work as an intern for a while. They have to get their feet on the ground. What we really provide is safety. We're a safe place in Cambodia. Most of these parents and most of these kids have never been to a city before. They've never been to Phnom Penh before. And think about it. You're a poor young girl from the provinces going to work or going to live in one of the very dangerous city, or can be. And so once the students graduate, they continue to live in the dorm. And that actually caused problems for us, because the dorm was filling up and we couldn't bring in more students. We doubled the size of the dorm, so then we moved into the new dorm. Then we had to establish a graduate dorm. And Jay told me when I came in today that you still have that program where you can apply for. So I think we're going to apply for the graduate one to see if we can start outfitting it. Because we have students who've lived with us for an extra 3-4 years. So think of the obligation. When we started the program, we made a commitment that any student who was in the program, we would never send back. How can you have a student dangle a future for them in 2 years and say, okay, well, so we're going to shut down, so you just go home. So we made a commitment that every student who comes in will get their degree, and possibly 2 degrees. So every time we put a student in the program, we're committing to as much as 7 years just for the university. We had 14 students come into the program last year. Do the math. 7 times 14, I think, is 98. So we committed to 98 years of school, up to 98 years of school. So, so that's the sort of long-winded answer to your question. Any other questions?
Chuck,
you at the back.
What has been the most surprising thing for you in the 10 years since you founded CLU?
Oh, it's the most surprising thing. That it worked. You start with a dream. You start with an idea. And that's what this year's been about, our 10th year, where we get to look back and say, where did these years go? I remember that picture I showed you back around the table. I remember that picture. I'm in that picture. And, to see where we've gone and how we've grown. We have 2 events a year. We have a dinner, dance, and then we have a golf tournament. For many years, we struggled to get 75 people to our dinners. Right now, I think our last one was 230. You sit there and you go, look how far we've come. Because what that means is that, look how many students' lives have we've impacted. So, 84 students. Okay, how many people are in their families? Let's say 5 people in their families. So 80 times 5. Okay, that's 400. But then you're an impact in the community. And you start, encouraging others. So, how many of those? And all of a sudden, the numbers become bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. We're small. We're very small. We're a micro charity, but we have a big impact. But it's the fact that everything we ever thought about. And I mean this. I can't think of anything Other than we don't have actual lawyers in the program. We haven't got that. That's the one thing. But other than that, it's really, that's been the most surprising thing to me, that it actually worked. I came up with an idea, or we came up with ideas that worked. And we're still here. If any of you go to Cambodia, let me know. Because this is a program where you can actually go to the dorm and meet the students. If you want to meet Shrey, if you want to meet Sakme, if you want to meet some of these other students, you can see actually what this program has done and what we've accomplished. And I'm really proud of it.
Do you have other specific goals? You talked about hopefully having people who can be practicing lawyers, but are there other specific goals that you have in the years ahead for the program?
We have our challenges. There's a few. The first is a changing environment in Cambodia. We may have to register as an NGO now, and that's going to have an impact on us in terms of financial and other things. The people who really started the program, and I should explain this a bit, we founded nothing. We started with nothing. We originally had the idea, and we set out a series of principles. And it was at a Raptors game on December 3rd, 2007, where we had this program. We had all of our people at the party sign it. And Tan Tree, who was a student from Cambodia working with us at the time, he signed it. He was supposed to go back and administer this program for us. We're going to start with 2 students, expand it on and on and on. He went back to Cambodia, got married. His mother-in-law sent him to northern Cambodia, so we lost him. Had no idea where he was. So I was down doing the tail end of a program that I was training program, and I was at the university. I walked over, and there was a bulletin board there, and the bulletin board had the name of Marnie Ryan and Kim Curie about this English law degree program, and I said, this was like 9 months later, I'd like to meet Marnie. And so an hour later, down the stairs comes this woman who fills the room with her presence, and within 30 seconds she says, I've got this program where I'm bringing poor young females into the city. I've tried to get funding from the United States, but I haven't been able to get any. Would you like to meet the students? Sure. So a couple hours later, around lunch, there's 6 students lined up in front of me, and I get there and talk, because this is our program. This is exactly what we thought. And then that's when we went to have that lunch. So on the spot, we sponsored 1. By the end of the day, it was 2. By the time we got to the airport, it was 4. By the time we got back to Toronto, it was 5. And Marnie is getting up in age. And so the challenge for us is going to be to transfer it to the next generation. When Marnie's no longer able to help government, because she runs the English law degree program at Rural, and that's why we have such a strong relationship with Rural. Rural gives us a 50% discount on the tuition for the Khmer program. When Marnie's no longer able to do that, and her husband, how do we transition it? And how do we transition it? CLU is very much our law firm. And so what happens, when I stop practicing law, how do we transition it to another group? How do we get it into the future? It's that same program that any small business, or family-run business faces. That's the thing that is the biggest challenge. To tell you the truth, our biggest challenge was the dorm. Because, and increasingly I'm beginning to believe, our students become a sisterhood and a sorority in the best senses of those words. They care for one another. The first-year students come in, they've never been away from home before. They're crying themselves to sleep. And you've got the 4th year, the 3rd years looking after them. And they come in as these little field mice, introverted, don't talk very much. By the end of the program, if you go there, they'll be asking you questions, zingers like crazy. And they just blossom. It's just unbelievable how these students blossom. And so, and our biggest concern is getting the dorm. But now we've got the dorm for another 10 years. So I think the answer to our conundrum is that students like Nana will step up and take over. And that seems to be what's happening. But how do we do all that? That's the biggest challenge I think we have right now. Any other questions? So it's about 1 o'clock, so.
Okay, if anyone has any additional questions they'd like to ask Chuck after the formal part of the presentation, please don't hesitate to introduce yourselves. Thank you all for coming. Thank you, Chuck, for sharing this very inspiring story about the amazing work that you and the other people at CLU have done, the real impact you've had in bettering the community. I can remember it was almost 10 years ago when our then LexisNexis colleague, Damon, had read an article in the Lawyers Weekly about this charity that we founded. At the same time, I was looking for colleagues who might have a way that we could donate some of our books, and the kind of Damon put 2 and 2 together. He facilitated the introduction, and it's been a great partnership since then.
It really
I'd
has.
like to be able to rekindle. So this is a small token of our
Thank you
appreciation.
so much.
And thank you again very much.
Oh, my pleasure.
We'll news about our next Rule of Law speaker in the months ahead. Thank you, everyone.